So nice to meet you all. My name is Fernando. So today we're going to talk about reading, right? Which is one of my favorite subjects. So I hope you'll enjoy this hour here with me. And well, I'd like to start by sharing. Let me show you what the topic of our session is all about. Oh, I forgot some, just a second. Oh, we have someone else. Okay, so the topic of our session is this, developing reading sub-skills using DC journeys, right? Which is one of the books that we use. And although, I mean, the topic says that it's using DC journeys, right? The ideas that we are going to discuss today, the ideas that we are going to talk about can be applied to to any piece of reading that we may come across in our classes, okay? And I don't want to be the only person here talking, so I would like to have your participation as well, okay? So that we can exchange some ideas. And just to set the tone of our session, right? And for us to be on the same page, I would like you to take a look at this picture here. Okay, can you all see it?
Yes.
Yes, right.
Yes.
Looking at this picture, I would like you to tell me what you believe the connection is between what you can see here and the topic of our session. Remember, there's no right or wrong. Can you see any connection between this guy here and the idea of developing sub-skills, sub-skills in reading?
Yes.
What is the connection then?
Can I say something?
Oh, go ahead, Inara, please.
Well, he has the big picture. He has reached a vantage point, and from there, he can see the big picture. He can really enjoy and appreciate the whole. But for him to be able to get to that vantage point and enjoy the whole, he had to take lots of steps. And maybe the steps here and there and moving to the right and to the left and finding the best way to climb, maybe those are the sub-skills that he's building up his appreciation of the text he's reading, and now he's there and he is able to really enjoy it. I don't know.
Oh, excellent. You're reading my mind. And Nancy says something very interesting too. She says, well, reading liberates the imagination. Okay. And obviously it has a lot to do with this. But that's it. Okay. The idea here is that this person, right, he has reached this vantage point here. Okay. And he's now what we can call, we can say that he's a proficient reader. Okay. But for him to become a proficient reader, he has undergone a number of different steps. Okay, he in different classes he made guesses while reading some texts, right? He worked on skimming, scanning, inferring meaning from the context, guessing meaning as well, guessing meaning of words, evaluating, note-taking. Okay, he has taken notes, he has identified discourse markers and a number of other things. Okay, so it's not like, well, okay, read the text and tell me what the text is all about. There are a number of things that we can do, that we have to do actually to become a proficient reader. Okay, so we're going to talk about all these things. And again, for us, one more thing for us to be on the same page, I would like you to take a look at these two quotes here from Koch and Marcucci. And they are in Portuguese, right? Because these linguists are Brazilians. And what I would like you to do is read both, okay? Because they mention things that have a lot to do with our view when it comes to reading, using reading in the classroom, okay? Take a look. All right. So usually what people say is that reading, okay, when we think about the skills that we develop when we are learning a foreign language, a second language, normally people say that reading and listening are receptive skills, right? And speaking and writing are productive skills, okay? These two linguists here, on the other hand, when they talk about these things, we don't have the impression that they are talking about something which is very receptive, right? There's a lot of action in these things that they are developing here, okay? So when he says that o leitor com seus conhecimentos é parte constitutiva desse processo, okay? So the reader of a text will play an active role in the process, right? As well as when Marcucci says, well, ao descobrir uma resposta final, teremos estabelecido uma relação mútua com a coerência do texto. So some action has to take place for the reader to, to be able to understand, okay, more thoroughly what the text is all about and become it part of his or her repertoire and make it part of their discourse and so on. Okay, so this tone here will be together with us throughout our conversation here today. Okay, so as reading as something more active than passive. Okay, more productive than receptive. Okay, so this is something I would like to bring from the very beginning. And when we talk about reading, when we talk about reading classes, right, we normally go to our textbooks, okay, and we have the reading, and we look at what the book brings to us, and we have the passages there. We normally have some warm-up, we have some comprehension questions, okay? But this doesn't mean that, okay, we are just going to tell our students to, okay, open your books, page 24 and 25, read the text and answer the questions, okay? This is not really how we are going to help our students become that proficient reader that we aim at, okay? There are a lot of opportunities here when we look at these three short passages, for example. There are a lot of things, different things that can be developed, okay? And this is what we are going to take a look at now, okay? We are going to look at these texts as opportunities for students to develop different strategies, develop different sub-skills, okay? So that they become proficient users, speakers, readers of the language, right? So the first thing that we when we are going to have, okay, when we want to present our students with a reading class, okay, the first thing that we should bear in mind is that, okay, before students start reading something, we have to put them in the picture, okay? And this is what this first activity here is aiming at. Okay, and this is something that can be exploited with our students. Okay, we can bring the topic, we can raise students' schemata as far as the topic that we are going to discuss, right? In this case here, as an example, we can discuss the idea of the world is your oyster, what it means. Okay, we can bring this idea of traveling, of having experiences with friends, okay, before we actually plunge into the reading of the text. Okay, so there is something that we have to do prior to the reading that will totally affect the quality of that reading activity that we are going to propose to students. Okay, so before any reading passage, we have to contextualize it. Okay, what is it going to be all about before actually, but without obviously spoiling the topic, because the student is the one who has to do all the reading. Okay, but before that, we should always exploit the context, the given pictures, whatever we have there that can help us develop those ideas with our students. So let's imagine that after having done that, we reach to the first passage, okay? Just to make it more meaningful to you, I think it would be a good idea. I'm going to give you a few, well, like 2 minutes, 1 minute and a half for you to actually read this passage, okay? Remember we had that idea of teenagers traveling, getting to know people, having different experiences, okay? And then we come across this text here, okay? And in this text, we have this picture, right? Somewhere code, right? Not somewhere which is round our corner, okay? And then the idea is to exploit the picture and ask students to read. But I would like you to read the passage before we move on, okay? Okay. Right. What do you believe, you as teachers, what are the opportunities you see here? What are the things that we can bring to our classes to work with our students? What are the different things that you see in this text that you believe could be explored? Any ideas?
Well, you want to point out the coolest, the cold weather with being cool and something really exciting to be done. This is something that I would like my students to see and for them to picture this place. It's such an interesting place. I would like them to be able to picture what this place is like.
Perfect, Chris. So the first thing that comes to mind is that you could draw a very nice parallel between the picture and the topic, the title of the text. Yeah, and explore the idea of cool, right?
Yeah, the double meaning, right?
The double meaning that we have there, right? Excellent. Okay, yeah. So this is one of the things that we can do. Okay, we can look at the title, right? And we can ask students, so based on the picture and the title, what do you think the text is about, right? So it's something that we can do with our students to anticipate what they are going to read, right? And we ask them to read, of course, and we ask them to confirm whether what they had guessed beforehand has to do with what the text is all about. Okay, at first glance here, we are not expecting students to come up with very specific information about it. Okay, we just want our students to have a general idea of this text, of what the text is bringing to us. Okay, and this strategy here, right? This idea of looking at the title, of confirming what the text is based on the picture, to have a general idea of what the text is all about, is a very important sub-skill that we work, which is skimming, right? The idea of going through a text to get an overall idea of the content, filtering the unnecessary details, right? There are times when we don't need all the very specific pieces of information. We just want to have a general idea, okay? This is one of the techniques, one of the things that we can work in our classes to make our students more, to prepare students for the reading, okay? And the skimming could be a first step, right? We may want our students to read it to get a general idea before asking them to read again to get something more specific, okay? But again, it's important that we tell our students what we expect them to do. Okay, well, let's just read the text the first time, just for you to understand, to get a general idea of things, okay? If we want to going a little further, right, we can use the same text, but this time we are going to look at some details, okay? So now that you know, we can tell our students, now that you know what the text is about, what will a participant's routine, somebody who will be part of this program, okay, a teenager who's going to take part in this program, what will this participant's routine be like? Okay, and what about free time? What are they going to do in their free time? So they may be asked to read the text again, but this time focusing on something more specific, okay, focusing on specific pieces of information. And they will read the text and they will probably reach the conclusion that part of their routine will be help scientists investigate work, okay? They will also have the chance to study the living habits of local inhabitants. In their free time, right? They are not going to a shopping mall, obviously, but they will have the chance to do a number of different things, okay? So this time we are working on a different strategy, on a different sub-skill that is called scanning, okay? Scanning involves searching the text for specific pieces of information in which the reader is interested, okay? And this has a lot, something else that we can work on with our students is the idea of text genre, right? In this case, when in their lives would they read a text like this, okay? What kind of text is this? What are the characteristics? What are the things we have? What are the things that we should focus on? Can we believe everything that is here? Can we believe everything that is in this type of text? Okay, what are the things we should be careful with, right? So these are the different kinds of conversations that we can have with our students to make them better readers, okay, which is ultimately what we want them to do, right? Something that I would like to tell you from the beginning is that we don't necessarily, we are going to visit, okay, different sub-skills, but that doesn't mean that we have to work on all sub-skills every time we come across a text, okay? There are times when we are just going to work on one or two, okay? I'm going to show a number of them here just for you to have an idea, but we don't necessarily need to get all the necessary sub-skills that we may find, right? Otherwise, it may be something a little overwhelming for students, okay? And after all, what we want is them to enjoy reading the text, okay? We don't want them to be stressed after reading it, okay? Moving on to a second, to another point, okay? We could work on something even more specific, okay? So we have this idea here. Don't expect to spend your free time in a shopping mall, though. Instead, you will have, okay? So we can ask our students, what kind of idea does the word instead introduce here? Okay, when we want them to focus on something specific, right? We may resort to the identification of some discourse markers, okay? And what they bring to us, as it says here, discourse markers, they are what? They are signposts, right? That are provided by the writer to indicate the sequence of ideas, right? They are helpful because they indicate the relationship between the parts of the text. So it's very important that we draw our students' attention to these discourse markers because they are there to give them some clues, okay, to show us some directions. I mean that the writer is providing us with, so that we more proficiently understand the text. All right. So you see, with one single reading passage, we are looking at different sub-skills that can be developed here. Okay. So far, so good. Do you have any comments, any questions? Can I move on? Great. We are going to look at a second passage now. Okay, so let's imagine that students were introduced to the idea of going to a place and having different experiences, and this is the first option they had. Okay, the idea of going to this place, to this freezing cold place, to have this experience. We have another possible experience, which is this one, right? So a journey back to the past. And when we get to this text, again, what can we do? We can work on skimming for them to have a general idea. We can work on scanning for them to get specific pieces of information, okay? But I would like you to read this text and think again what you believe could be brought to surface here in our classes to work with our students, okay? So take a minute to read the text and anticipate something that you believe, that you considered to be worth working on. Okay. So what do you think? What do you think you would focus on if you were to teach this reading class? What is something you would be interested in working with your students?
I
think Inara wants to say something.
I might focus on the picture and ask them, where do you think it is? And I would ask them to see what kind of technology they find in the picture. And they might say there's no technology. Say, look again, try to see. And maybe they will look at this thing that may be something to grind grains. We don't know what it is. But then ask them to read and then come up with a hypothesis. After reading the text, what do you think this device here, because this is technology, what is it used for? The house is technology, but there's something here that I think is used to grind grain. Somehow there are stones. I don't know, but they could come up with hypotheses for what this technology is.
And what Inara is doing, I think, is something, I mean, crucial, which is besides all the, the anticipation and the work being carried out to help students read the text. Okay, I think we also have Inara is also bringing a cultural element to question, right? Again, when we are reading, we are not just interested in understanding what the words there altogether mean, right? We also want to use it as a cultural reference, to learn about cultural information, right? So I think this is really good. And I think all this preparation that Inara suggested has a lot to do with something that may pose a doubt here to students, which is, okay, some words that they don't know, okay? They may come to you while reading the text and they may say, well, what does hunter-gatherer mean? Okay, what does this word mean, right? And here, if you take a look at what comes next, right? So the local people are hunter-gatherers, which means that instead of using industrial and agricultural methods, they have to collect wild plants and look for wild animals for their survival. Okay, so if the student does not understand this, okay, you can help the student guess the meaning of the unknown words, right? Again, using the picture, using the surrounding information that you can find here in the text, right? So again, this is another sub-skill that is very important, okay? And it helps the student develop his or her autonomy as far as reading is concerned, because the teacher won't be there with them all the time, okay? So they have to rely on what the text brings so that they understand the ideas that are being presented there, okay? So this is an important thing here. Another point that we can use here in this text, considering the genre of the text again, is this idea here, right? So we may, the writer puts, we do not guarantee you a lot of comfort. Okay, a nice discussion that we can have with our students is here is this. So what do you think the author of the text decided to include this, right? What is the idea? Why does this person decide to include that they are not going to guarantee a lot of comfort, which is not necessarily, which is not something positive, okay? But why is it that while writing the text, why do you think the writer decided to include this? Okay, so I think this is something to help our students. These are some conclusions that we have to help our students reach, which again will help them become better readers. Okay, and in this case, we are helping our students evaluate comprehension, right? Which is the idea of making a considered judgment on the truth and the value of what the writer is trying to say. So let's put ourselves into the writer's shoes, okay? They are trying to sell a program, right? But they are already anticipating something which may be a problem, okay? So, and they are including this in the text so that we don't have any further problems later. Okay, this is something that is not so obvious, but it's something that it's interesting for us to work with our students.
Don't ask for your money back later, right? We warned you, right?
Yes, you're being warned from the very beginning.
Yeah.
Okay, and this piece of information is there in the text. Okay, so it's nice for us to have this discussion with our students. All right. Any other comments? Okay, let's move on then. Another text, which, okay, so we have the third text here, which appears there, right? Is one more, the last experience that the students, the participants can choose from, okay? And again, the same thing. I would like you to read the text and anticipate something you believe that is worth working on with your students, okay? Okay. So in addition to skimming, scanning, guessing meaning of words, evaluating comprehension, besides all that we have seen, what else do you think could be a good idea to work on here?
We could discuss the topic. Maybe if they like cooking, if they are interested in cooking and some recipes they know, where they learned, just to arise interest in the topic and in the text.
Oh, perfect, Terry. So for them to relate to what is being said, right? To bring to their reality. Great.
And since this is like a kind of brochure trying to sell a program, maybe they could identify what the program is, where it is, what requisites someone to enjoy that program needs to have, what the objective of the course is, where they're going to be staying, and what they can do in their free time. So there are lots of information, and there are different categories in this little paragraph. So maybe they can identify how this ad, because it's a piece of advertising, how it was constructed.
Great. I think Inara is definitely reading my mind today. Wonderful. And the question, one possible question here is this: is there any prerequisite for teenagers to participate? okay? And what is the prerequisite
I
here?
promise you, we didn't talk before, right? No, we didn't.
Yes, that's true.
Never talked.
Okay, what is the prerequisite that you can find here in the
Enjoying
text?
cooking.
Enjoying cooking.
Okay, what else?
Speaking English.
Great, Nancy, yes. Okay, so all classes will be carried out in English, okay? Why? Because there will be participants from all over the world, okay? But it's not explicitly stated, right, that the participant needs to speak English, right? So for the student to reach this conclusion, we have to infer a little bit, okay? So there's something else here, that there's another sub-skill here, which is inferential comprehension. So the idea of reading, the ability to read between the lines. Something is not obvious, okay, but it's there, the information is there somehow, okay? So again, this is something for us to help our students understand. All right? So I want to know your opinion. If you had to choose one of these programs, which one do you believe would be the most interesting?
The last one.
So yes, there you would go to Italy and cook and learn how to have different abilities. And how about the others?
I would join Terry, definitely.
Me too. In a city with the, creature comforts and learning and having a good time.
Exactly. Yes.
Meeting
Okay.
people
Yeah,
from
but
all over the world.
I don't think I would go to places where you find extreme temperatures there. Maybe the third one would be, maybe we would all meet in Italy to take part in
Yes.
this course. All right. Okay, let's go
Yes,
back.
they
I
are
wonder what
15,
real
yeah.
teenagers would prefer, because I guess we all would prefer to go cooking in Italy. I wonder what the preference would be with teenagers.
So do you think they would choose something different from what?
I don't know. I am curious. I would like to check, because
Yeah.
I remember I had a student who wanted to go to the Kalahari Desert, and I said, "Why on earth would you want to go there?" And so it would be interesting to see. It's like posing this question. Okay, this is for teenagers, and what if it were for older people, or I don't know, kind of juggle the three texts so that you would consider different age groups, or I don't know, sex, or different categories.
Yeah, I think what Chris is saying is incredibly, amazingly relevant, because this has a lot to do with the things that we could do in the classroom as well. Okay, we are not, whenever we deal with reading, we are not dealing with reading solely, right? It's also an opportunity for you to develop other skills, like speaking, all right, for students to communicate. So we are putting things together, and this is a great moment. This is an invaluable moment for students to express their ideas, and for us to encourage them, right? To say, well, you want to go to this place, but why would you like to go there? Okay, and to transform this student's opinion into discourse. Okay, so okay, you prefer a possibility, you prefer letter C. Okay, but why is that? Okay, how would you support your answers? What are the things you would do to support your answers there? Okay, so again, we're starting with reading, reading sub skills, but we have an array of things to be developed there as well, besides obviously reading. Okay.
Fernando, maybe they could, for homework, they would have to ask the older people in their families, like their parents or grandparents, someone in their families, or maybe their kid, brothers and sisters. That would make them read again, even if they asked in Portuguese. But then they would have to summarize it, ask them, and report back in English the other day. So I asked my mom and she prefers this and that. My 10-year-old brother prefers this and that because he thinks Africa is cool, whatever. And maybe would make them read again, summarize, paraphrase, bring it back.
Yeah, excellent. And we could even ask them to produce text letters D.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's imagine that we don't like A, B, or C. So let's produce something different. Okay, let's consider a different experience, and they would use their imagination and come up with a different text. Why not? Okay, so that would involve another skill. They would have the chance to develop their reading, their writing skills, considering the genre, considering the characteristics of a brochure, right? All that. So again, this is pretty much the idea that I brought to the beginning, right? So when we look at the text, we may think, well, here we have 3 pieces of reading and a comprehension activity, but there's much more than that. Okay. It's just a matter of looking and trying to find all the opportunities that can be developed. We looked at 3 short passages, okay? But there are times when our passages will be a little longer, okay? So if you look at this text here on the left, it's a long text, okay? So what are the things you can do? There are besides all that, okay, besides all those sub-skills, right? We can work on understanding the organization of a text, okay? As it says here, so every text contains a number of different ideas which are presented in different parts of the text, okay? So we can help our students look at different paragraphs, okay? What is each paragraph dealing with, right? So the manner in which different ideas are related to the other. So how are these ideas being put together? It's a longer text, okay? So how can I understand the text better, right? What are the things that I have to focus on, okay? And it says, just to finish this understanding the organization of a text, it says that a good reader should be able to trace the organizational pattern in the text. Okay, once readers understand how a text is organized, right, they are hopefully better able to get the meaning from a more difficult text. Okay, so again, it's not just, we shouldn't actually ask them to read the whole thing without giving them some support, okay, without considering some strategies that we can make use of to help them understand. Right? If we're really interested in helping our students understand the text to understand all the details that are there. We can also work on note-taking, right? As it says, the note-taking or note-making is a sub-skill of reading that is highly useful for study purposes. Okay? Our students, if we think about our fundamental students, in fundamental 1, 2 students, right? They are starting to read something more complex so that they are prepared to read something more difficult in the future when they have to sit for vestibular or read work-related things, okay? So it's something that we can help them develop in our classes, okay? It involves, as it says here, it involves reading the organization of the text, being able to identify the main points, the supporting details, right? So to read the main ideas there, the topic sentence, the supporting sentences, and this hopefully is a basis for them to be able to write better text as well. So you see how reading can help them develop the other skills as well, okay? So these are the things that we can, these are the sub-skills that we can use. There are others, okay, but I decided to focus on these, obviously for time constraints, but I think they are the ones that are the ones that we really need to bear in mind every time we are going to prepare a class, okay, to prepare a reading class. And the materials that we use, the books or the booklets, they normally bring some comprehension questions, okay? Obviously, each comprehension question will focus on one subskill or two subskills or on some subskills, but they are there to help us, okay? So we don't have, while preparing our classes, we don't have to consider all of the subskills. They are being worked, they are being presented to us, okay? It's just a matter of how we are going to explore them in our classes with our students, okay? Very briefly, if you look at these comprehension questions here, right? In this activity, students have to do this. For each question, circle the letter or the letters of the ad or the ads where you can find the correct answer, right? Notice that you can circle more than one letter for one single ad. Which one or ones of the sub skills that we have just seen do you think are being tackled here? Just looking at.
Scanning.
There's a lot of, in this case, a lot of scanning, right? Okay, we are helping students. In this case, we are focusing more on specific information, right? So we say, well, the text, the activity that accompanies the text already deals a lot with scanning. So maybe while tackling this activity with these texts with my students, okay, I may want to work on some other sub skills that are not being contemplated here. So there are some other things that I want to work on to help my students. Okay, but all these accompanying comprehension questions or these accompanying activities, they will bring some different sub skills. Okay, some work on different sub skills. Any comments? Okay, and obviously, this is also followed by something that Terry said, which is the idea of helping students relate, okay, to the topic. So do you know how to cook? Do you enjoy cooking? Okay, so after students have read the text, after students have identified all the sub-skills, developed those sub-skills, right? It's essential that we work on, that we take this opportunity to work on speaking, okay, so that they can use the ideas brought up in the text to their own discourse, to their own ideas, okay, to their own repertoire. So it's always important that after having read the text, we have the chance to allow students to talk more freely, okay, about things that are interesting to them. Chris, would you like to include something?
No, I was thinking while you're saying that, I was thinking that even when you have the speaking thing, you, depending on how you do it, you kind of go back to the reading to extract, for instance, we are advanced students reading the text, but I would have to go back to the text to get really the essence of the persuasive arguments in each text. So I think that there is a lot to be done in terms of the language, really, not really the specific words, but the content. What are they saying there? I guess I was particularly struck by the hunter-gatherer, which is a difficult thing. They must be having that in the regular curriculum, but there is a lot that can be done. It's not only let's start talking now. No, let's use a lot of what was in the text.
Yes,
before we start
wonderful.
talking.
And the student will have the chance to make use of something that was relevant to him or her, right?
Yes.
Well, maybe text 2 grabbed their attention a little more, okay? And they will end up getting information from that text, using words, new words maybe from that from that particular text, and maybe, hopefully, right, potentially that word will become part of the students' repertoire because it was meaningful to them, right? Okay, that's now thinking about reading as a whole, right? Again, I decided to bring this back to you, okay, that again, it's not just the reading of 3 passages for, I mean, for the student to do a comprehension activity afterwards, okay? There are a lot more things, many more things to be tackled, to be explored that will help students reach what we saw there, for them to become proficient reader, which is what we aim at, okay? And I think there's something else here. If we deal with reading this way, in a very student-centered manner, right? Allowing them to express their ideas, talking about their feelings, talking about their tastes, maybe they will look at reading not as something boring, something mundane that I have to do in my classes, but something more interesting, right? Something that will make them more interested, and probably they will take this to other subjects as well, okay? I would like to bring a student here and who talked about reading, okay? He talks about, it was a TED talk for kids, and he talks about the power of reading, okay? And I would like you to, let's pay attention to what he says, and I would like you to tell me your impressions later. I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to spoil the what he's going to say, right? Just tell me what you think about, what springs to mind when he said, after you listen to him. Let's go.
Great readers make great writers, whilst great writers make great communicators, and great communicators make great persuaders. And you know what great persuaders make? They make good societies, and that's what this world needs. I think that it's totally crazy that all anyone ever talks about is games, TV shows, WhatsApp, Instagram, Bitmoji. I don't even know what that is. My brother just told me about it. WeChat, Kiki, Saraha, and I could go on forever. Studies have shown that some kids these days even spend 6.5 hours on a screen a day. I think we should draw attention to this problem. However, not reading can even result in making your brain less active or engaged. Just over the past year, I've enjoyed reading Winnetou by Carl May, the Harry Potter series with 8 books, Roald Dahl series with 12 books, and the Unwanted series with 7 books, and many, many single books in between. Some I've liked less, some I've liked more, but they all took me for such an adventure. Ask my family members. I'm a truly unhappy child when I don't have a good book to read right next to me. I love reading in places like my bed, on the move while walking, in the toilet, in queues, in vehicles, but more importantly, at home. I hide behind various corners of my house so nobody can find me and make me do anything else. Once I even hid behind a flower pot and pretended to be the flower, not moving at all. Nobody could find me for ages. It was hilarious. I read everywhere. So, for all of you skeptical people out there, let me tell you, when you have a good book to keep you company, there is nothing better in the universe. It takes you to places where you can't go and lets you meet people you can't meet. Reading is love in action. And the positives are endless. Like, I usually never have to study for spelling tests, and it makes my vocabulary so good that it easily impresses any grown-up. Sometimes, the first thing I know is I've just had a short conversation with the grown-up, and the next thing I know is there's a room full of adults talking about me. I can't imagine my life without a book. What I'm comparing is the lost art of reading, writing, communicating, and persuading the sum of the great societal ills of the text message, the tweet, and the snap. While these wonders of modern technology have their place, we, the young generation, have to hold on to reading. It's the key to our kingdom. So go out there, find a good book, not just any book. The best are the ones recommended by another kid, and just go for it.
Do we find many students like that in our classes?
No.
Well,
Not really.
not really.
So great.
Okay, so the idea, the reason why I brought, I decided to bring this boy to you, this video to you, is that I think wanting to have students like that, okay, students who like reading that much and who do that and pretend to be flowers, not to be, because they don't want to be interrupted. I think this is really far-fetched, okay? This is very much beyond what we find in our classes, in our lives. However, we can find some of these, we can help our students discover some of these characteristics in themselves, right? Maybe they are not going to be very avid readers, but maybe they will start reading things that are interesting. They will say, well, maybe reading can be, I don't have to use Instagram and play video game all the time, but well, every now and then it's okay to sit down and read a book. Well, now that I have this book, let me pay attention to these details. So this is something that we can develop. This is a type of taste that we may want to develop in our kids, right? Because this belongs to them. It may belong to them. So maybe we have to consider not the end of the continuums, right? So students who don't read at all, or students who are avid readers, just like this boy, but something in between, okay? Well, basically, in a nutshell, just summarizing some of the things that I have mentioned here, reading classes are first and foremost an opportunity for students to communicate, okay? We are obviously developing all those sub-skills, right? We want them to become good readers, but again, they are opportunities for students to communicate and not just a silent moment in our class when students will be kept busy doing something, okay? Reading classes, they also entail, again, the development of sub-skills which aim at making students more proficient readers. They do not have to, and they shouldn't aim at the development of all sub-skills, all right? This is too much, okay? But we can develop different things on different days. They can increase the contact with other points of view and different cultures, right? And I really like Inara's idea. You can even enhance relationship with parents, okay? So they can take these topics that they are discussing in our classes and discuss them with their parents as well, with their brothers, their sisters, their friends who are not in school, okay? And reading classes should favor the work on skills in an integrated manner. So we are not just working on reading, okay? We are taking all the other skills into consideration, right? We are working working with the language in a more comprehensive way, okay? And also always looking at all the opportunities that we have there to provide our students with, okay? So I would like to know whether you have any questions, if you have any comments, anything you would like to say.
I've always had a hard time dealing with reading in the classroom because you always feel that it is not you're wasting the time, but you want them to talk. But I think it is really challenging to think of what you have just said, or Inara mentioned, this finding something that could connect the reader with the parents or with other people, so that you think of what you could share, especially when you're thinking about this kind of text, what you could share with your parents. I think this is a good guiding principle to when you look at the text that you're dealing with, what you could have them ask or share with their parents. I really like this idea when, as a teacher, that
it goes beyond the classroom, right?
Yeah.
And something interesting is that if we think about our decoding and especially our journeys series, they are totally related to other subjects, right? They are going to study other topics, they are going to study with other teachers, okay? So they can clearly see the connection there between for example, the English class with the geography class or the science class. Okay, so we have the chance to talk to other teachers and see how we can have this connection, right? So yeah, it could be with parents, it could be with other teachers. Okay, so I think that the texts, they lend themselves to a number of to various things. Okay,
it is just so a springboard.
It's just a springboard. Perfect.
A springboard to lots of activities, lots of discussion, lots of other texts.
To other texts, exactly.
Wonderful world.
and I guess it's becoming difficult for younger people to focus on the written word, the written text that comes not with all the images and stuff that they are used to having. So it is a challenge for the teacher to reduce and to let's dive into this text and imagine, really understand what they are talking about. I think that it's becoming rarer.
Yeah, and the point is, before it's very dangerous, because there are times when, okay, teachers ask students to read books, to read long texts, but they don't teach them how to do it, how to go about reading different things and understanding different things. So it's important to work little by little, okay, to teach these, to start with shorter texts, to maybe you don't need to work on the whole text that class, but let's work on some paragraphs so that students get familiar with it, get acquainted with the format, with the content, and then little by little you start working with longer texts, okay? Or have this balance, longer text and then shorter texts, so that students don't feel overwhelmed and they feel like reading, they feel like participating, they feel like making those ideas part of their lives.
And Fernando, I think linguistically speaking, the power of reading, I think reading is really underrated. Maybe it is the most underrated skill of the 4 skills, because people don't see anything that's going on. When you're playing and listening, you're playing something, there's sound filling the air, not when you're reading. But we know how many times we, as non-native speakers, we say something and they say, how do I know that? How do I know that expression? And then you've probably read it somewhere. Mm-hmm. And I noticed students of mine who were failing speaking, and I lent the student a book, and she started reading it. It was a book that I had on marketing, and was an adult reader. And then she was very interested. She was reading, and she started getting more fluent. Because all the structures, all the way the vocabulary connects, all the syntax, everything is there. And you're absorbing that without even thinking about it. And you start speaking better because you don't have to pause so much to collect your thoughts and know what you're going to say. It comes to you. So the more you read, the more fluent you become. There is a big connection.
And you have the chance to find all those things that you've been studying in context.
Sure. Right? Not divided into topics, but everything together.
Everything together. Yeah. So guys, well, that's basically this. Thank you very much. These are 2 books that I really like. Okay. There's also this website here, which is really valid. I can send it to you. And I would like to thank you very much for your participation here. And if you have any questions, if you want to talk to me, make sure you write to me. This is my email address. I'll be very happy to get in touch with you. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very